Welcome everybody, this is a training video of directbanking NL. In this video we show you how to get a Ponto account and how to implement the software in Business Central with our app Direct Banking. First of all, we start to create an account at Ponto. So we go to myponto.com and we can create an account by just hit the button Get Started. We have to enter a name here and an email address. We have to create a password and to confirm the general terms and conditions. So now we can create an account and we receive an email to confirm our account. So check the email. So here we receive the email. We confirm the account. Let's send me the code. Let's finalize our account by adding our contact details, our VAT number, our company address. Next steps. So we have created our account at Ponto. So the next step would be that we are going to activate our bank accounts. For today, I have set up the system as a sandbox system, this switch here. So we see demo data. Make sure when you do this in practice that the switch is off. That's our dock in the background. Let's add our bank accounts to our Ponto account. So we hit the button Accounts. So we need to log in. Let's add our bank account. As we have the portal on the sandbox environment, we have three test banks. So let's continue with my test bank. Now Ponto will redirect you to your bank. In this case it's the test bank, but normally it would be your own bank. Let's connect. We log in at the bank. And now we can activate our bank accounts in Ponto. Let's hit this one and this IBAN number to our account. We select them. We accept. And we have two accounts, bank accounts in our Ponto account. Here we see our bank accounts. We see already the bank balance of this account. Let's open it. And we see all the transactions. So this is demo data. But normally you will see your own bank account with your statement lines here. To continue, we have to add our bank account to a so-called integration. And the integration will get some credentials we need for Business Central. So let's hit the button Integrations. We add a custom integration. Make sure you choose Add Custom Integration. So we give it a name. Let's say Training Direct Banking. We select the service here. We want to have the account information and the payment initiation, so we can retrieve the statements from Ponto in Business Central, and we can send payments from Business Central to Ponto. And here we're going to activate the bank accounts in this integration. So both accounts we're going to add to this integration. Let's add it. And here we see we have the client ID and secret, and that's important for Business Central. Both we need in the direct banking wizard. So let's copy the first one, the client ID, and then we'll continue with Business Central. Open the wizard, the license key provided by IDyn, the job queue, I will come to that later, the link to Ponto, but we have already created the Ponto account, so we can do next. And here we can copy the client ID, and now we copy the secret. Let's generate a new client secret here, confirm, and we copy the secret into the wizard, and we can finish the wizard. Now we can check if we have an active connection with Ponto. Let's open Direct Banking Setup Card. And we see here the client ID and secret, and we have an active connection already with Ponto. So let's synchronize our bank accounts for the first time. We go to Direct Banking Accounts. There are no accounts yet, so we can synchronize for the first time our accounts. All the accounts will pop up. So in the integration we have two accounts. Those are both here with the IBAN number and the balance of the account today. Let's open the first one because we have to make this one active. And to activate this bank account in Business Central is quite easy. The only thing we need to do is to add the default bank account numbers from the bank card in Business Central. So we have a lookup of all the bank cards in this database of this company. Today we use for this IBAN number my test bank, the B140. And we have a template, direct banking 1 my test training. Now we can activate the bank account, and we can go to the next phase, import the transactions for the first time. To have a good look on this screen, we see here that the last transaction ID is containing zeros. This means this bank account has never been synchronized in the past. We see also the bank details here, that's coming from Ponto, the balance we see, and the payment section we do in the next chapter of this training. So we can start up to import transaction. Because we have no transaction ID here, we get a pop-up the first time. Let's see it. And the question is, the first import of this account, which transaction should be imported? And we have several options here. For today, I will choose as far as back possible. So all the transactions delivered by the bank are now coming into Business Central. To do this, make sure you have overlap with the last posted statements in Business Central, so that you have some statement lines double into the system. I will show you later how to get rid of those double entries, but we have to get some overlap. Let's do OK. All the transactions are important. If we scroll down, we see here the transactions. Let's scroll up. These are all the transactions we retrieved from the bank the first time. If we go back up, we see now that we have an ID here, the last transaction ID. Next step is to hand over the transactions line into the Bank Giro journal, and that we can do with create reconciliation lines. This function is more than just hand over the transactions. We also try to reconcile the transaction lines with the open invoices in the system. So let's hit the button reconciliation lines and create them. And now we can open the Bank Giro journal and we should have an entry. And here we see our entry, the first one we made. This is the default standard Bank Giro journal from Business Central. Let's assume we need only to import a transaction from 2022. We see a transaction from 2021 and from 22. To make the connection, it's quite easy to do. The first Bank Giro journal you throw away. Let's delete this one. So if we delete this one, we can go to the next menu option, Transaction Archive. And we see here all the transactions. We can sort on execution date. And for this example, we will say that all transactions from 2021 are posted already and 2022 needs to be done. So we select here all the transactions we need to process. We can set them back to the transaction lines, so use the function set unprocessed. We go back to the previous screen and we see that the transactions are now here with the execution date in this year. We can hand over those transactions to the Bank Giro journal to use the function create reconciliation lines. And now we can open the Bank Giro journal. We have a new entry, and this entry has a connection with the previous posted bank transaction in Business Central. This is standard Microsoft Business Central screen, but we added some new features to it. Let's go through them. In the first line here, we see that the system already recognized, based on the information here in the fact box, additional information, that this statement line is coming from this customer. And we see already that the system applied that to an open invoice. And we see also the status, the reconciliation status is applied automatically. So based on the information and the provisioning we have in direct banking, the system found here, based on the payment of the customer, the open invoice and applied it to this document number. You can use still the standard functionality of applying to documents. That's all still available by here the functions apply entries in Business Central. We see here why this is not applied but has the status changed. That's due to the fact we have some extra functionality for repeated information of your bank statement lines. That's called map text to account. Let's check it, what it means. We have here the function related map text to account. And here we can add text what will be frequent on your bank statement lines and redirect that directly to a general ledger account. In this case, I look to this word, and when this word is on the bank statement line, then redirect it to the GL account 1647. So if we go back to Bank Giro journal, we see here the word repelled, And based on that one, the system suggests now we should post this line on GL account 1647. So if you have frequently the same texts on your statement lines, you can use the map text to account to have this automated quite easily. And what we have more on this screen, we can look at the details of a transaction line, view the telebank submenu here, additional information, and here you see all the information retrieved from Ponto, but basically retrieved from the bank. What we have more, we have the possibilities to create directly a bank account of this customer and add that bank account to the customer card. If you look here at the three dots, we have the function create bank account. So let's hit the function. The IBAN number the customer paid will be added to the customer card. The bank card will be filled in completely by the system. All the details here, and we can close. Now we have on the customer card also an active bank card based on the IBAN number of the customer. We have also the possibilities to add comments to a certain transaction line. So we are here on line number 2. We can add the comment by the function line add comment. And here we can enter any text. And the text will pop up here in the fact box line comment. So if you go to the next one, it's empty. If you go to the second one, you see the comment text. In this case, if you look at this Bank Giro journal, all the individual lines are applied automatically. There's no need to do it manually to apply to doc number or to use the apply to ID functionality. We can post this bank account directly just by hitting the button post here. This is the functionality for importing bank statement lines through Ponto directly in Business Central. Let's have a look on the direct banking setup card. Let's open the direct banking setup card. What we see here. We see first a wrap-up basically of the wizard. So we see the license key information, the license key is valued. We see our client ID and secret. We see we have an active connection with Ponto. Here we have a function import all bank accounts. Not only banks are supported by Ponto, but also additional financial companies like Molly, the payment provider, but also PayPal. So basically non-really bank accounts. You can use them as well in Business Central. Therefore, you have to switch this function off, that these kind of financial institutions will also be synchronized with Business Central. So you have the possibility to add more than only banks to direct banking. Check the Ponto website for all the connections they have. But we see a lot of new connections coming up, like PayPal, like the first credit card companies, like the first payment providers. Just have a check if there's something what you can use, what's already available on the Ponto platform. What we see more, we see here a couple of functions in the general tab. Detailed logging, you can switch on detailed logging. We have a small work instruction for reconsolidation. If the lines are not reconsolidated automatically based on the information provided by the customer in the payment, we can adjust our software. Therefore, you need to switch on the detailed logging. We track a lot of stuff in the database, including the work instruction. We can get the data and then we can improve our software. Here, the payment authorization. For payments, we're coming back later, but we have two options for payments. We can have a payment link after setting up the payments from Business Central, but we can also start the authorization of the payment process directly in the provider's portal, in this case in Ponto. For today, I will use the function sign from Business Central, but the payment will be handled later in this training. The localization, in this case, it's for the Netherlands, so we have the annual database, and the payment provider here is Ponto, because we have also another solution with the payment provider Cobase. But today we show you the Ponto solution. Then we have Regex functionality. The Regex is on. We can open it. We see Regex is on. And Regex means that we can clean up the statement lines delivered by the bank to us. Let's have a look here. Here we see all kinds of lines what will clean up the remittance information we retrieve from the bank through Ponto. We know some banks added quite a lot of text and other information to the remittance information And that can be disturbing for the automatic reconsolidation. So we can clean up the information retrieved from the bank and only show the user what's really needed to process the data in Business Central. We know in Holland, ABN-AMRO and ING have all kind of extra information to the remittance information, and we have all the Regex functionality for them available. So you can import them quite easily by themselves. Just go to the Action menu. You see here import available patterns. You can choose your bank. In this case, it's only applicable in Holland for ABN and ING. If you select one, the lines will be imported directly into the system. But I already have done that before. If you're using ABN or ING, just switch on the Regex functionality, import the patterns, and the information from the bank will be cleaned up when it's handed over to the bank Giro journal. We can close this one. So this is basically the setup. We have the manual available here, so the online help is available. We have all the information of the software solution. Let's go to the payment section. So before we do the setup in Business Central, let's check first the service in Ponto. Let's go to the Ponto website. So this is our Ponto account. Let's go to integration. For the payments, it's important that the payment initiation service is activated. If this service is not activated, we can't use the payment functionality through Ponto in Business Central. So make sure this one is on. Another thing is that Ponto will do a check on the customer. So the first time you're on board on Ponto, Ponto will do a check based on the applicable law, the so-called KYC law. That's Know Your Customer. For the account information, the check will be done afterwards. So you can start using this service directly when you're on board. You add the accounts, you create the integration, you can directly start with the account information, so import the bank transactions. For the payment initiation, there's a check in front of, so that takes some time. So if you create an account at Ponto and you add the bank accounts and you create the integration with the payment initiation services, it takes normally 24 to 48 hours for the approval of Ponto. So if you start doing payments before that, you will get an error message in Business Central that you're not authorized to do the payment. So make sure you check before you start with payments that the PI here, the payment initiation, is active. So let's go back to Business Central and to set up the payments in the system. To do so, we have to check the transaction mode of our bank account. So let's open transaction mode. And this is our bank account today. And here we have the export protocol. With the software, we deliver a new export protocol called directbank NL vendor. So here you probably have to change the setting in something of SEPA or whatever setting to directbanking NL vendor. Now the system will know, after generating the payment, that no file must be created, but we synchronize the data directly with the Ponto portal. Another setup for the payments is in the direct bank account card itself. So let's open our direct bank account card and go to the section payments. And here we see a couple of options. We see payments are enabled. That means that in our integration, the PI service is on. So you can always double check if this div is on, but this does not show you if it's authorized by Ponto. It's only show you if it's on or off. This one will show you if the bank is supporting bulk payments. In this case, our bank, our test bank for today, is supporting bulk payments. And here you can switch on bulk payments. So that means if you send several lines in one payment, the system will create a bulk payment or a batch payment. And here you can enter the transaction account. If you leave it blank, from 2 lines it will be a bulk payment, 1 line will be just a single payment. And if I enter 4, if it's then containing 3 lines at 3 single payments, from 4 it will be a batch or bulk payment. So we leave this empty. That's the only setup we have to do for the payment service of Ponto. So let's go to the payments itself. Let's create the payments and have a look at direct banking. We made it possible that we can do payments to so-called blocked accounts or also called G accounts. So if you have, if you receive purchase invoice, part of the invoice should be paid to a blocked account. You can set it up on the vendor card. So let's scroll down and we see here the G account settings. So this is a normal bank account where we pay this vendor. This is the vendor bank account. And here we have a second bank account we can enter here. That's the so-called blocked account or G account from this supplier. So if you entered here, just a normal standard feature, just enter a new bank account here. Here we can determine what we have to pay to the blocked account. We can do a percentage or we can do a fixed amount. These are the default settings for every purchase invoice. So if you receive a purchase invoice, this will pop up as default. But of course, in the purchase invoice itself, you can change the values, a percentage or just the amount. So let's create for this vendor a new document, a new purchase invoice. We set the due date on today. We add a vendor invoice number. You just enter one line. Let's buy a t-shirt from this vendor. One piece. In this case, we buy it for €3.99. So we have a purchase line for €3.99. I set up the vendor quite easy, so we have no VAT involved. Here we just have to enter the total amount, including the VAT. That's the standard Business Central functionality. So now we have an open invoice for the vendor. If we scroll down, we see the G account settings here. 50% of this invoice will be paid to a blocked account from this vendor. Of course, you can change the data here before you post it, but let's post this invoice. Let's go to the Telebank module for the payments. That's generated per bank account. This is a bank account today. So let's open this one. And we can get the new entries. Just to make sure you have only one invoice. We filter on due date. The due date today. And here we see the results. We see two lines popping up. If you look at the details, it's our invoice split in two lines based on the G account split. So one line is to the normal account of the vendor and the other line will go to the G account of the vendor with here the separate amounts of the line 50%, and we make this based on €2 and €1.99. So we can process those lines and then a Bunq card will be created by Business Central. So if we go back to the previous screen and we look at the payment history, we see a new entry here with our payment. Let's open this one. So here we see the standard payment history card, two lines involved with all the details. The export protocol is direct banking and of vendor, so we export this data directly to the Ponto platform. The status is new, so we can go to the next phase and export this payment to Ponto. Just hit the button OK. And here we see the status transmitted and also the lines are transmitted, and we didn't retrieve any error message from Ponto. If the payment initiation service is not active at Ponto, you will see an error message here telling you there's no authorization. So if you see no authorization here, you know for sure that there's something wrong with the payment initiation service. It's not activated by Ponto. You can check that quite easily and fix that by go back to the Ponto website and just use the chat box here and ask for your status or your payment initiation services. Let's go back to Business Central. The payment history card is done, so we can close this one. As you remember, we set up the system that we have a payment link in Business Central, so we can go to the direct banking payments. We see a new payment here. It's still unsigned. We can directly sign the payment from here, but we can also open it. And here is our payment, the two lines with all the details as we just exported to Ponto. If you want to look why we have to pay this vendor, there's also a lookup here of the details. In this case, this payment was being generated based on the purchase invoice, so we can have a check if needed on the related document. In this case, we see our purchase invoice here. Now we can sign the payment. We're going to Ponto. Here we see the payment. The total payment is €3.99. It contains 2 transaction lines, the same as on our payment history card. If you hit the button sign here, Ponto will redirect you to your bank. So from here, the process is depending on your bank. Let's hit the sign button. So we connect to my test bank. We're going to log into the bank. Here's a payment provided by the bank with all the details. You can approve or authorize this payment by entering the code or use your random reader or whatever credentials you have from your bank. You sign and then the payment is sent over to the bank. We can go back to the integration. Let's open it in Ponto. We see here our account. The payment is not being handled here. Ponto will update the transaction every hour with the bank, but we can also force that using the refresh button here. So now we see our payments are coming in. There's some other payments from this morning, but here they are, the €2 and the €1.99. We can go back to Business Central. Normally the job queue will do this, but we can do it also manually. Let's open this one and import the transactions. So new transactions must coming in. Those are the transactions. We can create reconciliation lines. We can open the Bank Geo journal. Here we see our second entry. And we see here the payment of the vendor with the 2 bank accounts with the status applied. So these are processed and we can post directly this bank statement by hitting the post button here. And the process ended here. Let's have a check on the job queue because we deliver with the software and job queue entry. Let's open the job queue entry menu. We see here the direct banking job queue entry. It's a standard functionality provided by Microsoft, but we deliver this entry. What we suggest is to run this automatically during the night. What you will do is to set it on hold at the time, and we suggest something like just after midnight, and you set it to ready. So now every day in the week the system will automatically connect Ponto just after midnight, get all the statements in and use the function create reconciliation lines, and the bank journal will be ready for the user. So if you set it up like this, and as a user you log in the morning, you go to Business Central, you log in, you open your Bank Geo journal, and the latest entry is available and can open directly. So the process for the user will be based on the job queue entry, go to the main menu, open Bank Geo journal, and there all your entries are ready to start using and start processing the data, and eventually post, of course, all the Bank Geo journal entries. Thank you for watching this training video. If you have additional questions, please check directly the online help functionality. It's all available there. If you have really support issues, you always can send an email to support@idyn.nl.